and welcome back to the HE Enable podcast. This is the show all about sharing our experiences of disability, neurodivergence, and long-term health conditions in UK higher education. I'm Kath, and this week I am joined by Danilo. Danilo is a student at University College London, where he is studying ancient languages. He is also the Disabled Students Officer and is part of 29 different student societies, many of which Danilo founded or is on the committee for. He, to be honest, may as well have a second degree in student voice and event management. It's so impressive. It's a pleasure to have him on the show today, and I can't wait to get started. Hi, Danilo. Welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm really, this is my first podcast, so thank you so much.
Super excited to have you on. We've had a bit of a chat. I roughly know who you are, but please could you introduce yourself for the listeners and just share a little bit about your background in higher education?
Yes, of course. So I'm Danilo. My pronouns are he, him, and I currently study part-time at UCL for ancient languages. Next week is actually my final official week. Regarding my background, when I was 18 or just finishing 17, I applied for several courses, one of which was ancient languages at UCL, because I really wanted to do classics, which I'd done at A-level and GCSE, and I really wanted to do modern languages, which I'd also been doing for a long time, and I wanted to combine them both. So most of the universities I applied for classics with languages, but at UCL they did not have the option, so I chose ancient languages because it seemed like a great course. However, unfortunately, I've not had the best experience with my degree due to various health issues, mental health issues. Throughout my 6 years at UCL, I joined UCL in 2020 in the pandemic, which was not a great start. Everything was online. It was kind of awful. And then I've just really struggled with my degree. I felt like the love that I had for studying had just gone away, and I kept trying to get it back. And sometimes it would come back, but never enough. And because of this, I ended up finding a lot of passion in other things, and primarily in running groups and running clubs. I am on the committee at the moment of 29 societies networks, but during my time at UCL, I've been on the committee of about 60. In my second year, I was on 42 committees, and they actually introduced the rule to reduce it to 10. Not for me, for everyone, but I applied for an exemption, so that's how I'm on so many committees now. So now it's actually quite low compared to my second year. But honestly, I will say that I have decided to take a break from education. It was not an easy decision. It was about 3 years in the making, this decision. But I just realized that I wasn't progressing in my degree. I wasn't happy in my degree, and I just needed a break from it. So I'm actually withdrawing from UCL in the next 2 weeks, and I will continue my education in a few years because I want to focus on my career and on my health, etc. But also, I do not regret going to UCL because I made a lot of wonderful friends who, you know who you are. I'm so eternally grateful for you. But also, I found my true purpose. I know that my true purpose in life is to help people make friends, to help reduce loneliness. And this was impacted a lot by my first year where I was so lonely. And I really wanted to make sure no one else feels like that. So that's why I'm on so many committees, because I try to help as much as I can. So, and that's what I'm hoping to go into as a career. Yeah, sorry, that was a bit of a long answer.
No, I think it's perfect. I think it's perfect because to be honest, it shows where our goals really align, because I started this show to reduce loneliness, right? Because there wasn't anything where people could be like, oh, this is where all the people who have struggled to face adversity, you can hear their lived experience, and it kind of came from the same place. I don't think I could have done 60 societies, oh my goodness. And I know a lot of those are in either special interests or liberation groups. So you were the LGBTQ plus officer, and you're currently the Disabled Students Officer.
Yes.
Correct? Yeah. And you've done loads of amazing stuff there. I just, even looking, I follow you on Instagram and just seeing the amount of I'm running this and all the events that you're running, it's honestly super impressive. I really hope that if you, when you return, would you be continuing classical languages, or would you be doing something more similar to the kind of society and organizational stuff that you've learned to love so much at uni? Are you unsure?
At the moment, my plan is if such when I do return, I think I would do the degree online because I'm hoping that by that point I'll have a stable job in something that I really like. So doing it online would be more accessible. And I want to do it in history and modern languages, because that's big passions I still have. So that would hopefully, I have considered doing it in events potentially, but because this degree kind of at times ruined my passion for ancient languages, I don't want any potential degree to potentially make event planning less fun due to exams. But I'm not sure, because this is going to be in a few years. So maybe I'll change my mind. Maybe I will go into event planning as a degree. Maybe I'll go into something else. But at the moment, I think that it would maybe be in history, because I really love history a lot, and modern languages. And I really want to, I feel like those I would be more interested in studying academically, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you.
Don't wanna kill your passion. Do you know what? I appreciate that and completely see where you're coming from. We're gonna get into the kind of meat of the podcast now, which is mainly like disability, neurodivergent, stuff like that. If you are comfortable saying, how did your disabilities, neurodivergence impact your experience of higher education?
Yeah, of course. So I've had a lot of impact due to my mental health and disabilities across my 6 years at UCL. In my first year, it was primarily my depression that just made going to online classes so difficult. It just made me have no motivation. I just felt like, as many people did during the pandemic, I just felt like, there was like no end in sight. It was just isolating. And this just made my depression and dark thoughts really bad. And antidepressants, and this made me so tired. Like, I was sleeping all day, and it was hard for me to catch up on any work, which is why I ended up going part-time. I started full-time, and then I went part-time, and it was meant to be temporary, but I just never went back. I know other things that have impacted me during my time at university, definitely my autism, especially in my first year. I tried to make friends, and I did make a few good friends in my first year, but a lot of people were just very not nice. And it was just, with my autism, it was just really difficult to understand whether I was the problem or whether it was just people being unkind. And it's something that I still struggle with now. And it's something that I've always struggled with. And it's something that many other autistic people struggle with. My anxiety has also impacted a lot. So, for example, there's been many times, well, not many times, but like a few times where I've come into class and I've been a bit late because of the tube, because the tube is also a big trigger for me. But just because, London tubes are always late. And I arrived like 10 seconds late or something. And I was too scared to go in because I just think of all the people inside like staring at me. And then I just stayed outside the door for about an hour, just being so sad and so stressed. I don't have this issue that much anymore. I think I've kind of overcome it slightly, which is good. But it's, I had it in my second year, my third year really impacted me so much. And it meant then I missed a lot more lessons than I had expected. Another thing was, this was really, really a lot, but my OCD. In my third year, my OCD got much, 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 much worse. And it was contamination OCD specifically at the time. And this has really, really impacted me because it's also made things so much harder regarding studying. Like, during GCSEs and A levels, I would take the sheets that I had completed at school or the notebooks that I had written in, and I would bring them to my house, and then I'd put them on my desk and I would make them into flashcards. Whereas because my OCD has been so bad in recent years, I've not been able to do that because I've been scared of taking things that are outside of my house into my house due to contamination fears. I'd have to take pictures of them and then like make flashcards of them looking from my phone, and that's just been extra steps, which I know sounds silly, but it just made things so much harder. And also, I wouldn't be able to bring the flashcards into university, and so it would be difficult to revise there. I wouldn't be able to revise at university, which I already I'm not good at because I've never been good at revising at school. I've always been better at revising at home. I know for most people it's the opposite, but that's just because at university I get so distracted. Like, whereas at home I can have a timer, etc. But there's also just been many different things. My eating disorder has impacted things a lot. Like, there's been times where I binged and then I felt sick, so then I've not been able to go into university. And also the impacts of my OCD, it made me have a huge fear of bathrooms, which I still have. And this has also prevented me from going into university at times because I've been scared to use the bathrooms. I've been scared to have an OCD breakdown, and so this would impact me going to classes, especially early in the morning. A lot of these things have gotten a bit better in recent years, but where I've learned how to handle it better. But it's just made things much harder. Also, with my hypermobility, that also makes writing more difficult. Which I realized I'm actually worse at writing now. I think it's because I don't do it as much than I did when I was in school, which I am glad that I don't do it as much as I did in school. But and just various other things, to be honest. Like, it's really difficult to pinpoint one because it's been a lot of different things over the past 6 years. And this is more of a reflection now, because now that I am leaving university, and I kind of made my decision about 6 months ago, but I wanted to like kind of rest with it and like just clarify that it wasn't the right decision. I've not had these issues as much because the pressure has been gone. And so it has, these issues are still there, but they've not been impacting my studies. And so reducing that stress has helped my mental health. And I think that, so this is more of a reflection. And these things do still impact me day to day, just not my studies at the moment, because I'm about to leave my studies, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And it's the pressure that you put on yourself, I guess, that can exacerbate a lot. And I don't have personal experience, but I feel like I understand what you mean about the contamination and having the extra steps, because that's all executive functioning as well. And it feels like that means everything feeds into each other, and that can make things incredibly tough.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for being so understanding. I really appreciate it.
I just, lived experience is lived experience, and it's lived, it's not there to invalidate, right? But you went to uni in COVID, so you would have been the year below me, because I started right before it all happened. And it sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like the transition from online to in-person, being online sucked, and then the transition to in-person probably also just wasn't great for you in terms of your mental health and exacerbating your symptoms. Do you think that's right in me thinking that?
So when I remember at the beginning of my second year, I was so the first few weeks I was actually really happy, because I was like, oh my god, this is so nice. Like, like this is the university experience, like the typical quote unquote university experience that I had hoped for. But then very quickly a lot of issues came. I realized a lot of the typical university things I was not actually into. Like, for example, I don't drink. I don't, being autistic, I struggle with a lot of social interactions. A lot of the things were quite difficult. But also, I just realized it was really difficult. I realized I'd lost my rhythm of going to education every day. And I just never got back into it. I got into the rhythm of doing something every day, like running events every day, or going to work every day, because I used to work in a nightclub in my second and third and fourth years. But I just never got into the rhythm of going into university every day and then studying every day afterwards. And that was part of the thing. It was like this constant guilt of, oh, I'm not studying, I feel bad. That I had in GCSE, that I had in A level, and then having it in university. It kind of got to the point where I was like, oh my god, when does it end? And it was just quite difficult, because I think that also made my motivation go down, especially because with jobs, obviously a lot of people continue their jobs after working hours. They might have like tasks to do, etc. And that's their choice, though sometimes they're kind of pressured into it by bosses, not always, or sometimes they really want to get a task done. But in general, they're not expected to do a 9 to 5 and then spend the rest of their working hours, doing work. Whereas with studying, that is the case. And obviously, I understand that my logic is not perfect, but I also think that the education system is quite flawed. There's not enough work-life balance in the education system. There's not enough payout, like rewards. People graduate and they still struggle to find jobs. And all of this combined with, never being able to get back into the rhythm, it just made things worse. Also, additionally, is that so I commute from home, and I'm lucky. Like from home to UCL, it's only 40 minutes, which is actually less than secondary school, because I grew up in London, and to go to secondary school, and sixth form it took an hour there, an hour back. So it's actually shorter. But it was quite annoying when like I'd have 1 hour a day just to travel all of that time and waste that, not waste, but spend that money on things that like I just wish I could have attended online. It was just, and it was especially that, everything was forced to be online in first year, and then all of a sudden there was no flexibility. I was like, yeah, it was just really difficult.
Mm. Was there anything else you noticed when you first accessed uni for the first time? Were there any, like, what was your experience accessing higher education at UCL? Was there anything else that you kind of noted?
Sure, I guess it was more things that like, I also just realized like how overwhelming it is being with so many people. Going back onto campus with so many people all the time, that was so stressful. It was just, and it's still something I find stressful with now. And obviously, I wasn't naive. I knew that this would happen. It was just, again, difficult. And I'm not too sure. I'm not sure if there was anything that like I was surprised by after COVID. I think it was just more things that like I had kind of, I hadn't. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how to explain it. All in all, I think it was just like I had such a few bad first few years at UCL that with studies that it kind of impacted the rest of the future years, because it also just really decreased my motivation, and also just struggling with my subject so much, like struggling with biblical Hebrew, struggling with Aramaic, struggling with Hittite, just spending so many hours and still not passing, or passing but barely. It just completely it created this big wall of awful that it was really difficult to combat, because I thought I'm going to spend so much time really struggling with this. I would have so many anxiety attacks. I would cry. It was just horrible. And then I would not get much done. And it was just, it was the first time in my life, because at GCSE and A levels, I wasn't good at everything, and not even remotely. Like there was a lot of subjects I wasn't good at, like science. I was very not good at drama. I was not good at, etc. But I would often be able to overcome them if I worked really hard. Whereas in university, it wasn't the case. Like I would work hard and still not be able to understand it. And it was the first time that it kind of had happened. It was just so demoralizing. Like, for example, this last year with biblical Hebrew, it made procrastination much worse, because I was just like procrastinating, going through all of those awful feelings once again.
Honestly, I want to extend an appreciation for how well you've done, because A, you've been going at this for 6 years, and B, like, ancient languages are hard. Like for every language that you're learning, it's a different orthography, it's a different syntax, it's a different, like the semantics, and I'm guessing quite philology-esque as well. So it's a lot of contextualization of words and having to do the surrounding historical research. It's a heavy degree. And, I looked to the philologists in my faculty and didn't even consider what they were doing as a viable option, because it looked honestly so damn hard. And they were strict linguistics, but I guess the classical languages and philology is pretty similar to each other. So I just want to say massive kudos for, trying so hard and getting as far as you have, because I know how difficult, from seeing those scripts, how difficult that can be. I did want to just continue with the questions, and feel free to respond to anything I've said as well, but we've covered a lot of obstacles that you faced already kind of organically through this conversation. Did you encounter any other obstacles during your time at UCL? Did you manage to overcome them? And if so, how?
So I would say that other obstacles I faced have been, well, first of all, financial obstacles. So in my second year, because I was part-time, I received a lower maintenance loan. And this really made things difficult. And then afterwards, I got a job in several LGBT nightclubs. And I was working 6 nights a week. And I also had another job as an exam vigilator, which was very, very seasonal shifts. But yeah, overall, just really helped my money situation. So in my third and fourth years, I didn't even apply for maintenance loan. I applied for the tuition fees, but not maintenance loan. But then halfway through my fourth year, I lost my nightclub job, and that was really difficult. And then ever since then, I've been facing really bad financial difficulties. Like they've kept changing, but in my fifth year, I spent a lot of my money on therapy, which didn't really help. But I spent a lot of my money on therapy, most of my money on therapy, and then it got so bad I couldn't leave the house because I couldn't afford to travel. And then thankfully now I'm out of it. Now I have more money, but still not enough. But that's something I know many students struggle with, and it's something that is a big issue for many students, but also many people in general. So that's one of the obstacles. And other obstacles have been mostly just dealing with people not being understanding of my autism. I've had a lot of the times where people have like said that they have ADHD, which I also have, or that they have certain conditions, that they're autistic, and so that they're just being rude. And like if they're being rude, then that's just their autism, and that I have to respect it. But when I've been accused of being like too friendly, and I say that I'm autistic, people aren't understanding back, and I felt like it's a bit hypocritical, and it's just really gotten me down because I always try to do the right thing. Like if people say that they don't like something, I stop it. I try my hardest to. But often people just do not say that, and that just makes things much more difficult. And overall, this has really impacted my mental health, and it has made things much more difficult.
Yeah, I have two really quick things to say off the back of that. First of all, if people could say what they mean, this is a call to anyone listening. Please say what you mean. Please be clear, because like it is so confusing, right? So full disclosure, you won't know this about me, but I'm not diagnosed autistic, but it's very much like I've had someone who with a lot of credibility tell me it's very likely, and I have ADHD as a diagnosis already. So like we're assuming there's something there. But that clear communication is so helpful. And also, like, if you meet one autistic person, you've met one autistic person. And not applying that across everyone is just so important. But I also just wanted to point out how you are truly living such an intersectional experience. I feel like is the right way of putting it, right? Because you obviously have a lot going on with neurodiversity and your mental health, and that can be very physical, like hypermobility sucks. I say that as a me thing. You can have your own opinions. I have it in my back and it is the worst. And I know you've outlined your financial struggles there as well, and like thank you so much for coming here with those. And obviously you were the LGBTQ plus officer as well. You're living at so many intersections right now that it must be a very interesting time being at uni. But I guess with the liberation groups, that must be really nice as well. If it's okay with you, I'd like to ask a question that is currently ahead in our little list. And because you've had such an intersectional experience, you did like 60 societies. And I was just wondering how you found yourself in that situation. Was it mainly because of something basically running parallel to your studies, which you enjoyed? Was it also an act of joining liberation groups because that's where you felt affinity with people as well, and that sense of belonging? How did you end up essentially being part of like 60 societies?
Yeah, of course. So in sixth form, I had run 5 societies, and I really liked it, including the LGBT society. The first thing that I did when I joined UCL, even though I was online, was I joined the committee. Well, I applied to be on the committee of the LGBT network, and I won the election, which was nice. So the first few years, I was the secretary. So I regret being secretary because that role was quite like not for me at all. I felt much happier when I was the social secretary in my later years, because that was much more me, because I loved doing events. Secretary mostly included like taking notes, etc., which was really, I did not like it at all. And I also joined the disability network, the Disabled Students Network committee, like a month after I joined the LGBT committee, because there was an election for that as well. And it was because at the time I wasn't even sure if I like qualified as disabled, like if how as weird as it sounds, like I wasn't sure that people would like take me seriously, because I considered myself to have a disability, but I didn't know if people would take me seriously. And now, hopefully, most people would. with my autism, with my ADHD, with my mental health issues, my hypermobility, etc. And then there was the leadership race in March of 2021 and the by-election in May of 2021. And through that, I joined a lot of other committees, such as the Autism Society, the European Society, and various other societies. And then I ended up being on the committee of 42. But I realized a lot of these societies were actually, they were not for me because I just thought that the people were not that, or not so much the people from these societies, but like people that I'd met were not very nice. Maybe they were a bit cliquey, etc. I really struggled in my first few years, and I actually considered finishing all societies, but it was kind of like an addiction. Like I couldn't stop because I liked running societies, I liked running groups, and it was in my third year and fourth year that I found more. I loved running events, especially for marginalized people, like for LGBT people, for disabled people, etc. And doing events that people enjoyed so that they can make friends in an informal setting and, enjoy their university experience. I know people have kind of criticized, or maybe not criticized, but I know some people, they think that I do too many low-key events, like Kahoot socials or speed friendings or coloring socials, etc. But the thing is, there's so many drinking events and high-profile events that turn a lot of people away, like people who don't drink or people who get very overwhelmed. And I think that it's important to have spaces where people who prefer low-key events can meet each other and make friends, and then they can, then they can go off and go to clubs, etc. if they want to, And I say this as someone who used to go to a gay nightclub every single night, both as work but also leisurely. I don't do it anymore because the nightclub that I went to that I was in love with shut down. So that's how I got into it. And I also kind of, in a way, I kind of developed a savior complex, except not for people, but for society. It's if there was a society that no one had run to be on the committee of, or it was on the verge of dying, I would step in and help revive it, with the Mental Health Society, with the Immunology Society, with the World History Society, etc. I really just, I was these spaces are so special, for people, even if there's one event a month, there might be the event that will help a student go out of his shell and enjoy their university life. And that is so important. You kind of underestimate the importance of these events on people. So that's why I always try my hardest to help with these, which is something I will really, really miss when I leave UCL. I want to work in a students' union. That's what I'm looking for jobs for at the moment. So hopefully that will be good.
I'm sure there will be an SU that will take you somewhere. Again, seeing the amount of events that you can put out is so impressive. Your Instagram story makes me tired. Just look, it's so impressive. Before we go back to the normal question order, I wanted to touch on your role as the Disabled Students Officer at UCL, because obviously I'm guessing that spawned a lot out of you wanting to help people stemming from similar motivations for working in student societies. And I was wondering what you think the most impactful thing is that you've done while you've been in that role as Disabled Students Officer at UCL.
100%. So I've actually been Disabled Students Officer twice. I've erased being Disabled Students Officer in 2021 to 22 because I really did not know what I was doing, because it was a job share, and the person that I job shared with, she had been the previous Disabled Students Officer, so she knew what to do. And we were trying to help students as much as we could, but it was very difficult because we didn't have a committee. And also, again, I didn't really know about all the systems, etc. So I didn't know how really to help. And so I did help people. People told me that I had helped them by getting support. I used to email people's lecturers and help them ask for extensions, which isn't really actually part of the role description, but I just wanted to help people as much as I could. And I would represent disabled students' voices in all of the SU meetings. And oh my God, there were so many SU meetings. But I would say that being Disabled Students Officer this year I've been able to do more because I've worked more with student support and well-being. I've been able to actively reflect feedback that students have had regarding systems to the higher ups at university, like Disabled Student Support and Wellbeing or the Student Success Team, etc. And also, because I know all the systems now, I've created weekly socials in Disabled Students Network so they can meet each other, which is actually something I've been doing for the past few years, because after I was Disabled Students Officer the first year, and then wasn't on the committee in 2022, then 23. Then I was Social Secretary from 2023 to 24. Then in 2024 to 25, I was the Welfare Officer. The two Disabled Students Officers both left UCL. So I kind of was running this network by myself, whilst also being head of the LGBT network, along with someone else. We were the two LGBTQ plus officers. So I was running two networks by myself, but it was really difficult running the Disabled Students Network because I wasn't the officer. I didn't have access to like the email addresses or the people who had memberships. So a lot of people for the Disabled Students Network was inactive because they wouldn't get emails about it. When in reality, I was doing events every week for disabled students to meet each other. I was putting it on the calendar and on the Instagram, but some people don't check those, of course. And it was very difficult. But then I was elected Disabled Students Officer last March for this academic year. And oh my God, usually there's only one or two people who run for Disabled Students Officer. Like the most recent elections that just ended yesterday, there was no one who ran for Disabled Students Officer. But when I ran for it, there were 4 people. Yeah, I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to win this. But I did, which was really good. So I was very happy. And I've been trying my hardest to help students as much as I can, as I have been doing in other things, like in other groups I've run. You know, I've helped them get support. I've reached out to students' services for them. I've listened to students about their concerns. I've raised issues to the SU, to higher ups, like this disability service, the student support and wellbeing service. I've been trying to create change. I think the thing that has been not so much frustrating, but yeah, frustrating is the right word, is just how difficult it is to create like institutional change. Like, for example, one of the issues I was trying my hardest to work with was around support dogs at UCL. Support dogs, assistant dogs, just different kinds of dogs that support disabled people that are really essential. Several people who have support dogs had told me that they had faced a lot of issues with it, and I was trying my hardest to talk about this issue. And the people that I've spoken to, like from student support and wellbeing, they've been really, really nice about it, and they've tried to help. It's just really difficult creating change, especially because recently I was in a panel of how to be a good ally to disabled people. And the main thing that I said quite a few things, but I said the main thing that I said is to listen to disabled people, because when disabled people talk to me about the failures that they have encountered, as in institutional failures, whether it's by GPs or doctors or academics or teachers, etc., it almost always comes down to the fact that they're not listened to. And it's not just disabled people that have this issue. It's like, you know, a lot of people who have health issues is that they're not being listened to. A lot of people who've experienced hate crimes or racism or sexism or queerphobia, etc., is that they're not listened to. And that's a lot of the issues, is that a lot of disabled people don't feel listened to because they're not being listened to. You know, they're being dismissed, or they're being told that it's not that much, or they're being told that there's nothing else that can be done, when there's always something that can be done. Even if it's not completely what the person wants, there's always something that can be done that can help. That's one of the things. It's so important to listen to disabled people and all people in general, just, you know, listening to their concerns, actively listening to what they have, you know, had happened. Because often, you know, and it's really exhausting telling someone.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I know you've left a lot of impact, and people will tell you, obviously, that you've made a lot of impact to them, but it's also a matter of, I hope that you feel like you've done that for people yourself as well, and that you have achieved your goal, because it sounds like, at least from the outside, that you absolutely have, and you've done a great job. We're going to move just to some rapid fires, just so we can definitely get through everything on time, okay? So as short and concise as you can, please, lovely. So I want to hop back to this question that we skipped earlier. It's a question I asked all of my guests. No is a complete answer. Have you experienced any instances of your disability proving helpful in a higher education setting?
I would say yes, because then the primary reason is that I think that my disabilities, primarily my mental health difficulties, have made me more empathetic, not just in higher education, but in all aspects of my life, stemming from secondary school. And I think this has helped me with running events because I've been more understanding to people being shy or people needing additional support, like, if they want to come early, etc. So I would say yes.
Yeah, I'm really, really glad. And I'm so glad it feeds into your events as well. And you found a love in that. And I so hope after you leave UCL that either you stay in touch with them or you can take that forward into a new role, because it sounds like you were good at it and it's a good outlet for you. You are good at it. Next question actually is about societies. How can we make them more accessible, do you think, to disabled students or possibly people in other minority groups as well?
Yeah, of course. Okay, also I have a lot to say. I'll try to say my top 4 points. So number one, doing low-key events and non-drinking events to make people who are shy or people who get overwhelmed, etc., to make sure that they are included. Number two, to make sure that rooms are accessible, and also just making sure that everything is as accessible as it can be. Number three, celebrating awareness months and days such as LGBT History Month, Disabled Students History Month, OCD Awareness Week, etc., Black History Month, etc., and also sharing pronouns. Introducing yourself with pronouns, so then it makes people feel more comfortable about using their pronouns, and that leads to lower cases of people making misgendered, and also shows that it's an LGBT inclusive space. And number four, just asking people what can be done to help make this event more accessible. Like, for example, someone may have allergies, or they may be vegan, or they may have an intolerance or a severe allergy to something. And so, they might ask for different food, or someone may have anxiety. So they may ask, is it okay if I come 10 minutes early? So I can, gradually ease into the event. People may be a bit late. So just asking people what can be done to help make things more accessible.
It all comes back to listening, doesn't it? I know you've already said it, but so much of it does. Yeah, it all comes back to listening. Next question's pretty similar, but it's a lot more general outside of societies, if you have anything else to add. So how do you think we can improve the experience of higher education as both individuals and a society?
I think in addition to listening and generally taking on these conditions, is just looking at alternate ways that things can be done, like, alternate ways for students with disabilities to attend lectures online if they're not feeling well or if they're unable to, alternate ways for students to take assessments, etc. Like, there's so much that has been done and has been improved in higher education over the past few decades, but there's so much that can be done. And it's just, I think a lot of the higher ups in higher education are kind of in the mentality of, oh, it's always been this way, that's the classical way, the traditional way, but that doesn't mean it's the right way for everyone. So I think just working together to make things more accessible and more inclusive, and a lot of like exams, etc., like the gradings would be just as valuable if they were, like, for example, like projects where people could speak, or like courseworks with more flexible deadlines. So I think that working together with disabled students and staff to make things more inclusive and accessible would be best. Absolutely
agree. Nothing to add to that. Obviously, we fit a lot into a relatively short time. So our final question is going to do a lot to bring that together. If we consider everything we've spoken about today, what is one key takeaway that you would like listeners to remember from your story?
So just knowing that there are people there that will support you. And even if you haven't found them yet, you just have to keep looking. And I'm not trying to underestimate how difficult it is, but there are people out there who you will click with and that will support you. There will be services that will listen and that will support you. So please just do not give up. Like, there will be people that support you, and things can get better. So yeah, sorry, I was trying to keep that as short as possible.
No, you did a great job. And I think it's really important to say that even if the ending isn't always what we think it will be, like, I'm sure you didn't expect having to take a break from your studies and withdraw.
Oh yeah, definitely not.
Things are still getting better. Yeah, things are still getting better, I hope, as well. And that's a message that can be carried into the future, regardless of what the outcome of people's lives are. We wouldn't be human if we didn't have those kind of differences. And I think it's such a rich and important message. Danilo, thank you so much. I'm just going to wrap this up. So, HE Enabled is the show all about sharing our experiences of disability, neurodivergence, and long-term health conditions in UK higher education. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. I'm always looking for guests. If you are interested in coming on the show, do get in touch via the link tree. There is a link in the description. Also in that link tree is a link to Patreon or Buy Me a Coffee if you wish to support the show in other ways. I am doing my best to get early episodes on the Patreon as and when I can. I think that's it for now, so I'm going to leave it there. Danilo, thank you so much for coming on the show.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure.